Welcome to Mijas International on this Thursday, the 13th of June. Artist and founder of the Andalusian International Artists Association, Roger Cummiskey, is with us in the studio today, and the theme is Bloomsday, and it's a commemoration and celebration of the life of the writer James Joyce, during which the events of his novel Ulysses, which is set on the 16th of June 1904, are relived, and it's especially celebrated in Dublin, but also around the world. And Roger is organising the third Bloomsday Bathe for this Sunday. Good evening, Roger.
Hello, Karen. Nice to be back with you.
And nice to see all these props as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. For those people that are not quite sure what it's all about, can you explain the activities surrounding Bloomsday and how it all started?
Well, while I lived in Dublin, I always participated in some events around Bloomsday, and there are hundreds of them going on, particularly in Dublin City. Back in 2004, which was the 100th year anniversary of the day that's celebrated in the book you mentioned, Thursday the 16th of June 1904, about 66 countries around the world all got in on this. So it's a major international event at this time. It used to be Bloomsday, that's how it got its name because of the day. But in fact in Dublin now it runs on for a week. And there are celebrations all the time of every ilk that you can think of. This year, Joyce's book all his works came out of copyright. So there's been a phenomenal surge forward in creative activities, in song and dance and books and all sorts of stuff related with Joyce is coming out this year, which wasn't there before, or if it was latent, because the estate of James Joyce used to put the hammer on anybody who tried to use his work while it was within copyright. Oh, okay. That's the 70-year rule. Yeah. It used to be, I think, 50, and then they extended it to 70, and that 70th year is now up, and everybody's clamouring. They're singing songs about him and everything, but there are events on all over the place. And it's not just in Dublin, but it's really all over America, Australia, New Zealand. I couldn't go through all the countries because there are about 60 of them. And I'm glad to say that our little event here on the beach in Funkyrolla gets a mention on the world stage through the James Joyce Centre in Dublin. It gets a mention through the Irish Embassy site up in Madrid. And the embassy were in touch with me today asking if I knew of anywhere else in Spain that anything else was going on in relation to Joyce. So that there is a terrific interest. And this interest all stems from this writer who was born in Dublin and really basically only wrote about 4 books. The 4 books were, and he used to call them his book. He had a different pronunciation of it. It was the 4 books that he wrote were Dubliners, which was a series of short stories, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which told the story more or less of himself growing up, and then Ulysses, which took about 11 years to write, and then his final tome, which is impossible to read, Finnegan's Wake, and that took about 15 years. Oh, goodness. But he lived his life in round terms, 20 years in Dublin, 20 years in Italy, and then 20 in mostly Trieste, and then 20 years in Paris. He scuttled around to a few different places over the years and met many, many famous people. Everything he did seems to have been written down, and everybody knows who associated with them. Obviously he was a little bit of an adventurer, and he loved all different cultures as well. Yeah, he was able to. A very famous story about him was that he learned when Ibsen wrote one of his plays. Now I just can't remember the name of it because it just came into my head this second. He wrote a play, and Joyce was 18 years of age, and in 3 weeks he taught himself the language of the time that it was written in, which was Dano-Norwegian. It doesn't exist anymore. But he taught himself that language in 3 weeks and wrote a favourable criticism of Ibsen's play. And Ibsen was so impressed with this young fellow of 18 writing to him from Dublin in Ireland that he wrote back to him, and Joyce became great friends of Ibsen's for as long as Ibsen lived, you know. It's quite an amazing story, that. And you learn a language in 3 weeks. Extraordinary, in 3 weeks, yeah. He also, obviously, when he had English, When he went to Italy, they spoke Italian at home. He went to France, they spoke French. This was all very difficult for his wife, Nora. They eloped, and they didn't get married for about 28 years. But they had 2 children, Giorgio and Lucia, during that time. And it was very difficult for Nora because she couldn't cook, so they had to eat out every night, which suited him. And he always drank this very famous Swiss wine called Fendant de Séon, which is still available today. And probably it helped speed along his demise at the end of the day. But she had it was difficult for her because when he met her, she was a chambermaid in Finn's Hotel in Dublin. She was a very, very ordinary girl. He just met her, fell in love with her, and the story is a very strong love story that lasted until he died.
Oh, the whole lifetime. And I do love your T-shirt. It's wonderful.
Well, that's from a painting that I did some years ago, based on the one and only painting done by James Joyce. And he did it in Myron Nutting's studio in Paris in the 20s. Nutting, Joyce used to call into Nutting. He'd throw a few stones at the window and he'd go in when Nutting, who was a painter, was working. He used to work through the night. Joyce would be full of drink going home. And if he saw the light on, he'd go in. And one day, Nutting said to him, "Look, Joyce," he said, "every time you come in here," he said, "you're talking to me about Mr. Bloom this, Mr. Bloom that." He says, "Quite honestly," he said, "I'm a visual artist. And while you may have great interest in him, I wonder, could you possibly just give me an idea what he looked like?" So he gave Joyce a napkin, a white napkin, and some charcoal. And he said, "Could you mind drawing what he looks like?" So this is what he drew, something very similar to that. Now, Joyce put some Grecian hieroglyphics on either side because it's based on the story of Odysseus.
Yes.
And but that's basically the one and only drawing that he did, and this is my adaptation of it. And the original handkerchief is hanging in the Rosenbach collection in the University of New York at Buffalo. And one of my versions was picked out some years ago by one of the guys from our Dublin Writers Museum, who is a Joycean expert, for the James Joyce Museum in Sandy Cove. So there's an image of this fella hanging up in the James Joyce Museum in Sandy Cove in Dublin. I'm very pleased about it.
I'm proud, yes.
Yeah. No, I really am. And it's such a simple drawing, you know, and that's what I liked about it.
It's very effective, though, probably because it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, you're organising the 3rd Bloomsday Bathe for this Sunday on the Fuengirola Beach.
Yeah, well, you know, I'll put on my props for this.
Looks fantastic.
What we do is we assemble just opposite the Hotel Florida, which is the green building, along the Paseo Maritimo in Fuengirola. And people say, "Why don't you have it in Malaga? Why don't you have it in La Cala? Why don't you have it in..." I can't have it everywhere.
No,
we had to pick somewhere, and I think we ended up picking Fuengirola because of the infrastructure. You can get the train there.
That's true. You can catch the bus there.
And a lot of people know Fuengirola Beach. So along there you have the Florida Hotel, and in front of that there's a beach, and we assemble there at 7:45 in the morning. Now there's nobody there. There aren't even towels belonging to some of our friendly tourists from Germany on the thing. So the boys are only putting out the lilos at that time in the morning, and we assemble. And at 8 o'clock, we just divest, we dive into the sea. You don't have to do that. Some people just turn up the leg of their trousers and they paddle. And we have a quick swim around and we get out. And this is symbolic because at the beginning of Ulysses, at the end of the first chapter, Buck Mulligan goes for a swim at the 40-foot in Dublin. So that's why we do that. That's why we have the bathe on the beach. And it's... we did it for the last 2 years, and what makes our event unique from anything else that's going on anywhere in the world, and I can say this with pride and with certainty, all of our people read in their own language.
Oh, that's very
so
good.
if you're from Sweden, you read your Ulysses in Swedish. Someone else in Danish, somebody else in Thai last year, somebody else French, somebody else obviously Spanish and English. So whatever people, and Finnish, we've had several people from Finland reading it. And people just read maybe a page or a few paragraphs just to get the feeling for it and carry it on. And we do this standing in a circle, and people get very, very interested in it. You're standing there on the beach. There's no charge, it's all free. And as the guys are putting out the beds, they're wondering what this is all about. Until the guy starts reading in Spanish, and then they're all listening.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. And then the tourists start arriving, and they're wondering what everybody is doing here. So we dress not necessarily in costume, but I encourage people just to make a little effort in that direction.
So would it be, gosh, it would be Edwardian, wouldn't it, if it was in costume?
Well, 1904.
Yeah,
it's you know, you can wear whatever you want. It really doesn't make any difference. Yeah. It's just, the idea is just to get out there, to have a bit of fun. It costs absolutely nothing. And
meet people from other cultures.
You certainly do, that you'll never have seen before and probably never see again till next Bloomsday.
Well, it sounds wonderful. The details of it, while you've been talking, have been coming up on the screen.
Oh, good. Good.
So we'll remind everybody when we've finished talking exactly when.
Okay,
and where.
Okay.
Now, you do have an associated exhibition at the Galleria Lucia as well, don't you, in Fuengirola?
Yeah. The AIA, the Andalusian International Artists Group, are having a small two-man exhibition in Restaurant Galleria Lucia in
Fuengirola.
Yes, it's Calle Maestra and Galles Aspiazzo.
Yeah.
And this exhibition is a joint exhibition between myself and Enrique Linaza. And Enrique is from Malaga City, and also from, well, his wife is from Galicia, but he's from there as well now.
Yeah.
He's a very nice man. As it turned out, his wife worked in Dublin for a couple of years. She now works in Belmadonna, and her mother and some of the family live here in Fuengirola. But I'm having this joint exhibition, which we call Ulysses, and we have the opening on the night of the 14th, which is, I think, 2 nights away. Or tomorrow night, maybe. Yeah. Tomorrow night, just for a couple of hours. And then that'll run until the end of July, where you have paintings in oils and watercolours which take their themes and titles from the writings and wanderings of James Joyce, and interpretations both by Enrique Linaza in abstract and by me in, taking quotations from Joyce.
From Joyce.
And including some of Mr. Bloom.
Yes, lovely. And I've just noticed there you have a couple of more interesting things. It's the works of Master Poldi.
Master Poldi, yeah, because you see, my friend Mr. Joyce, the main character in Ulysses was Leopold Bloom. And his wife used to call him Poldi for Leopold, right? And Molly made a lot of references to him during in the novel, in the novel Ulysses, and nobody ever thought to put this together until last year.
It's only just out, isn't it?
It's only came out last
edition.
6th of this month.
Yeah.
It's a limited edition. This here is, it's called the Works of Master Poldi. And it was compiled by, the editor is a fellow called Steve Cole from Baltimore in the United States, and the publisher is a fellow called Jamie Murphy from Dublin. And he used the old-fashioned letterpress system, which was the use of blocks and the reverse of letters. And there was a system used for printing throughout the world from about 1700 and something onwards. And when you see that this is the production that he made, it's
if you just lift it a little bit.
I'll lift it up a bit now. Can we see this? Yeah. I see it there now, okay. If I could just turn a couple of pages like that. The introduction is by Anne Fogarty, who's a professor of James Joyce Studies at University College Dublin. And it's compiled by Molly Bloom, so it's her sayings that are in here, taken from Ulysses and then put into this format. This is the format that Jamie uses, but the whole thing is printed using a special process that they used in the old printing works. Now, the best way to describe it, really, I'll just slip through a few pages here and see if we can get a fairly clear one. So this here is Mr. Mulligan resolved to purchase Lambay Island. So but it's the print I want to draw your attention to. This print is the same sort of print as you would have seen if you cast your mind back. You won't think of it just looking at it, but if you cast your mind back, you will remember the Wanted, Dead or Alive posters.
Oh, yes, that's right.
They all used this sort of print.
Yes.
Years and years and years ago in the Wild West, right?
Yep.
So that's what it sort of suggested to me. So here we have another one here, right? This is an interesting one because in getting this book, I was an investor in the project, but in getting this book, I also got a couple of posters from the book. And they're
limited edition as well, aren't they?
Well, these are limited. These are 12 of 12. This here is one here now. And this here is a quotation from the book, and it's Molly Bloom's expression from Ulysses. And it says, in the Nova Hibernia of the future. And then you took it out, you have Bloomsalem. Isn't that what it says?
Yeah, Bloomsalem, like Jerusalem, Bloomsalem.
Can you read it from there?
Yeah, it's upside down though.
Is it? No wonder. I wonder why I couldn't read it. Into the new Bloomsalem. The Muslim. Right? Because Leopold Bloom was a Jewish advertising salesman in the book. And it's upside down. Very good. I wonder I couldn't see it. I wasn't looking at it. And here's another one that I really thought was rather nice. This is from the final chapter of Penelope chapter of Ulysses, when Molly is thinking back over her husband. That's just her stream of consciousness we're dealing with. And she said, that long kiss, yes. He said I was a flower of the mountain, yes. That was the one true thing he said in his life, yes. And then it says here very much, I saw he felt what a woman is, and I knew I could always get round him. So she knew exactly how to get around her husband, and that makes up part of the book. So this just came out the other day in a limited edition itself. I think there are about 120 of them made altogether.
Yeah, I think it came out on the 6th of June.
Yeah. And we'll see how it progresses. It was launched in the crypt of St. Patrick's Cathedral, Christchurch Cathedral in Dublin. Now this is the same place where Jonathan Swift wrote his things, where Handel's Messiah was written, and just across the road from where Robert Emmet was hung, drawn and quartered. Very, very famous old part of Dublin. So that's the book, and the Salvage Press are the people that produced it, and this can be seen, or they have a website, and if you just put in the Salvage Press, you should be able to come up with it, you know.
Yeah, but it's certainly very special.
So that was only last week, and I went to Dublin to get that. It was a great pleasure for me.
Now, the Bloomsday Survival Kit, that's been intriguing me.
Well, this is the second year for these people. They're a bunch of 4 creative people, 2 Irish, 1 English and 1 German. But the German's name is Mighty Lopez.
Spanish.
Which I think is rather nice. Her father was Spanish and her mother was German, I think. But she lives in Dublin. A lovely girl. And the other girl then is Jessica Yates something. She has a double-barrel name. I can't remember the second. Getting half the right is not so bad. And then there are 2 lads, James Murphy and a fellow called Niall, and I can't remember, Niall Laverty, I think. And this here, last year they brought out a little manual to help along. But they organised right through the year, for the last year in Dublin, is they organised readings in different locations that were in the book. And they invited people along, and you could go along and you could read a little bit. And we sat around in circles, and we did several things. I did them back in January and February of last year, again last week. And It's like they've worked their way right through. They're now down to the very end. They're in Penelope chapter, and they'll finish off. This week.
On the Sunday.
On Sunday. Now, what we have here is these people brought out this sort of kit that they suggest might be useful for get over Bloomsday and to read Ulysses. That's their manual, okay? And inside it has 18 chapters with lots of maps. It's a very simple little booklet, but it tells a very big story. And then inside here, this is what's a little bit, I hope that you can pick up on this here.
Yeah, they'll be able to.
This is a special kit to get over Bloomsday. And then if I open it up there, what they have in this is the Bloomsday Survival Kit contents. Now, there are all sorts of things in it. There was a film made in 30-odd years ago by Joseph Strick, first ever Ulysses. It was barred in Dublin for 30 years, and that's coming out again. These people have linked up into a Rocky Horror Show type attachment with the Ulysses thing. So their thing is all interactive. So they talked about romping through Dublin, and they have they've invented a new dance called the Glasnevin Shuffle. Glasnevin is a graveyard, and these are all skeletons, and I just won't go into it then. So just to bring some of the other things, then they had the Ulysses drinking bingo. Not sure what that's about, but it's.
Oh, well, I suppose they'll call out the different types of bottles.
Now,
and if they match, you've got bingo.
This is sort of the adult content. It's an old photograph, which I probably shouldn't show your viewers because it's very risque. And that didn't just come out in any one of these years. That came out
a long time ago. Yeah.
And this here is also an old photograph as well of the wrestlers.
Yes.
Or boxers from way back. So this would have all been, and then there's something else here. I don't really know what that's for. I think if you hold it there, you might be able to see it. I don't know whether you wear it on your head or whether you hold it.
I think it's for your wrist.
Your wrist, or for holding up your stockings. This here, as part of the survival kit, is for feeding the seagulls over the River Liffey.
Keeping them away from your picnic.
This here, I don't know, because in the book, Mr. Bloom at some stage breaks wind, and this is one of these cushions. If you sit on them,
they make that noise.
This here is a sort of a party pooper, which I can't really let off because I don't understand it. It's very modern. This here is which you'll probably recognise that. What do you think that is?
I think that's eyeliner.
It's an eyeliner pencil, and it's for
the moustache.
to draw your moustache, or to draw some sort of tattoos or something. But they do say here that the eyeliner is for, it's a moustache pencil, instant moustache, create your own Bloomsday style. And then this last thing here is that's just a thing from the James Joyce Festival this year. And then they have, of course, they have the standard, they had this out last year, which is just a little badge for
to say that you're part of the
Bloomsday Survival Kit. I call these people the survivalists, and that's the sort of stuff that they have out for Bloomsday. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for the people of Dublin, and they all get into it. You'll see all sorts of interviews. People are asked, have you read Ulysses? And they all say, no.
But most people, anyway.
Most people have never read it. But these people who have brought this together, the survival kit, people have brought that together. They've made it very interactive. And as people read, you can't just get away with reading. They're ringing bells and they're making all sorts of asides and they're distracting you as you read it. So of course, it's difficult enough to read. And then when you get the distractions thrown in, it makes it even more. But it's lightening it up for everybody.
So that people can enjoy it.
And I think that's terrific because it's de-intellectualizing it.
Yeah.
For many, many years, Ulysses, the study of Ulysses was confined really to the academics. And people have been getting degrees and bits of degrees in America in Ulysses since the year dot. They get, I don't know what they call them, they get bits and pieces.
Special, certificate.
They can do a certain amount here in Ireland or they study Ulysses. There are books written in relation to Joyce and his writings. And as I say, he only wrote 4 books.
Yeah.
almost every day of the year.
Yeah.
You know, and it's written in Chinese and translated
All
in Chinese.
different languages.
All sorts of
Amazing.
different, 140 odd languages.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Roger. That
My
was
pleasure.
really
My
interesting.
pleasure.
And we'll just remind people that if they want to come along on Sunday the 16th of June, it's at 07:45.
Yeah.
It's at the Fuengirola Beach in front of the Florida Hotel.
Yeah, beside the carousel.
Yeah.
You might know that.
Okay.
So if you walk onto the beach, just go left and look on the right-hand side. We should be there. you know?
Okay. So they can do
that's
a
good.
little reading and enjoy
Yeah,
the
and have a bit of
celebrations.
fun, that I guarantee.
Okay. Well,
right.
thank you very much.
My great
Thank you.
pleasure.
Okay,
Thank you.
time for a short publicity break and then we'll be back with all the latest local news for you.